detention center waiting for sentencing on a drug trafficking charge. I personally introduced my daughters and my sons to prostitution and drug trafficking, manufacturing, gun sales. I personally did that. And but I say, and I started to witness to them, asking God to use me to win them for the kingdom of God. And when I met my daughter in Blaine, she needed some money, not a whole lot, quite a bit though, and I had accumulated tens of thousands of dollars that I put in a bag, and it said God's money on it. And the only thing that I was supposed to use that money for is things that God told me to do in my spirit. So like if God told me to bless you with $1,000, I would just give you $1,000. If God told me to give Pastor Messenger a car, I would just buy him a Cadillac and take it over there and give it to him. If God told me to bless Bishop or whatever, I would just do whatever God said to do. Sometimes God would tell me, say, call Bishop, tell him to come over and put $800 in his hand. It was a number, it was an actual number. He said, do that. I would call Bishop, he would come over, I'd put $800 in his hand. I would do that from the homeless, most stankiest, most forceless person to the most prosperous person that I know. Whatever God said to do, I would do. Okay, here's what happened. She came to my house and she had a van. And we filled the van full of dust ruffles that go on the bottom of the bed, what they call dusters. Whatever they call that, goes on sheets, pillowcases, comforters, pots, pans, blenders, grinders, can openers, a whole kitchen full of stuff that you put on the counter to make your kitchen beautiful, a whole bedroom set to make the, with the pillows and with the ruffles around the clock. Everything that I could think of that she could need for her house. And then I gave her the money that she asked for. On the front of the money, in the envelope on the front of the money, I put God's money. And I said, honey, I want you to know this came out of the money that God told me to use to advance his kingdom. He didn't tell me to give her the money. That's my bad. I had to repent for that. I said, but I'm going to give you this money. But I want you, if I didn't give her my money, this wouldn't happen. I said, I'm going to give you this money. But this is God's money, honey. And if you don't use it for what you said you needed it for, then there's going to be repercussions and you're not going to like them. If you buy drugs, or if you squander this, or if you don't pay the stuff you say you owe, and if you don't use this to better your life, then it's going to come with the consequences and you're not going to like them. And I gave her the envelope. She said, Dad, I understand, and I won't. She never made it home. She took the money straight to Alexandria, went straight to the dope man's house, and bought drugs. She took the drugs and got in her car and was driving home to where she lived, and up in that area. A lady was passing her and rolled down her window and said, your van is on fire. She pulled over to the side of the road. She got out of the van. She walked back to the back of the van, and she watched the van burn all the way to the frame. It burned up. There was nothing left. She videoed it. A highway patrol pulled in behind her, and they both watched the van burn. I think he sprayed it with some chemicals. It was too late. The van was already burned down. The rubber was off the tire. It was sitting on the rim. Right? So that was the first thing. So I thought that was the consequence. And I didn't know that at the time she had bought drugs, but later, a year or so later, she told me about it. And I thought, my God, that came with a high price. Now she's facing 16 to 20 years in a federal penitentiary because if you do what God says to do, you'll get what God promises. If you don't do what God says to do, you'll still get Read in Deuteronomy blessings and curses, obeying God and disobeying God. If you're called of God and you're disobeying God, there's a horrible, terrible consequence that's going to befall you. If you are a Christian and you're obeying God, there's going to be unthinkable blessings that are going to befall you. This right here, this spiritual warfare manual, this victorious spiritual warfare package causes Christians that have been unsuccessful to be successful at their parenting, at their marriage, in their job, in their finances, in their employment, in their as a boss, as a friend, as a neighbor. This book and another book I got from